And Jefferson, in the world of weather, we got quite a bit of that thunderstorm action happening in the overnight hours. Quite a bit of lightning, from my understanding.
Yes.
And I was checking some of our sources, if you will, and I noticed that there was a fire happening just north of the Oregon border with Washington. So 415 acres, I believe, is the latest count on that. And it's kind of not surprising given how many lightning strikes we saw yesterday.
Yeah, we did see abundant lightning from about 7 to about 10 o'clock yesterday evening. Now, luckily, that thunderstorm coverage has come to an end around much of the inland northwest. The one part I would be concerned about when it comes to any fires that did spark up because of the lightning will be the presence of breezy, gusty wind today. That is not going to be aiding in firefighting efforts. Now, the good news is temperatures today are going to be relatively cool, and then tomorrow we're going to be looking at temperatures in the 80s with pretty light winds. So hopefully, because our resources aren't stretched too thin just yet, hopefully we will be able to get that blaze under control. Now, as we wake up this morning in Yakima, you can certainly see those clouds overhead. We're seeing clouds and showers in the area right now. It's 59 degrees at present. Here's a look at your weather headlines today and going forward. We are seeing some showers on this Memorial Day morning. As we do go into the afternoon, we're going to be looking at a dry and blustery day with much cooler temperatures than yesterday. But in general, this will be a warm and sunny week of weather. We'll talk more about all three of these weather headlines coming up.
Thanks, Jefferson. We begin this morning in Benton County. A Tri-Cities man is in jail after crashing his car into an irrigation canal. Deputies with the Benton County Sheriff's Office say they were called out Saturday afternoon to the area of South Oak Street and East Bowles Road in Finley to find this car sitting in the canal. After authorities were unable to locate the driver at first, a resident called police to tell him a man popped out of a nearby orchard once they left. Eventually, police made contact with the man who denied he was driving the car despite being wet from the waist down and having the key fob in his pocket. The individual is currently booked into the Benton County Jail for hit and run. The car, meanwhile, has been removed from the waterway. And several individuals are in jail following a drug bust in Kennewick. KPD says they were given a tip on Tuesday, May 20th, about potential drugs being sold from a house on the 1000 block of East 4th Avenue. Police were able to conduct a search warrant on the house on Saturday, where they found items including illegal narcotics, cash, and weapons. The owner of the house and multiple other people who had outstanding warrants were taken into custody and booked into the Benton County Jail on charges of delivery and sale of a controlled substance. Local authorities are hoping you can help them put an end to a string of recent thefts. Take a look at this. Kennewick police are asking if you can help them identify the woman on your screen. Now, this individual, who was captured on a Ring video camera, is seen stealing several items off the patio of a random residence before running away down the street. If you know who this thief might be, you're urged to contact Kennewick police through the non-emergency dispatch line or by submitting an anonymous tip at kpdtips.com. And sticking in the vein of law enforcement, officers from as far as Canada were here in the Tri-Cities last week for a special training and certification program. KEPR's Ann Whitaker spent the day with those officers and tells us more.
From New York City to British Columbia, Canada, there were officers coming from all over, part of an annual training with the Pacific Northwest Police Detection Dog Association. The Pasco Police Department, which has 4 different canines, was the host agency for this year's event.
In our region, it's far and above, as far as the standards for this certification, are far and above what's required in other places. Not to say that the training's not also good, but the certification standard here, single, double blind, it's the hardest standard to accomplish.
Combining classroom instruction with real-world scenarios is part of what sets this training apart from others. Nearly half a dozen locations throughout the Tri-Cities, including tow yards, homes, and even the Toyota Center, became the training grounds for the dogs and their handlers.
We have instructors from New York City. We've got instructors from Ontario, Canada. We've got FBI instructors. You name it, we've got it here. Bring the best people to do the instructing and speaking at the various conferences to enhance the abilities of these dog handlers.
So Washington State has a certain requirement that they have to meet with an 80% pass rate for the handlers, and there's a lot that goes into that, so we won't get into all that, but B&W requires 100%. And the other big factor is that there's not very many associations across the nation that are doing double-blind testing.
Double-blind testing means that the person who placed the substances isn't present during the tests, so the handlers and their canines can't know where they're at without doing the work.
Whenever we are writing a case based off of an alert from the canine team, reliability is a huge component of that. And so basically what we're able to show is that we have far exceeded the state requirements when it comes to reliability out of a detection team.
The nicer thing is it really gets, you have dog teams out on the streets that are at the highest caliber, which I think the public expects. They don't expect mediocre when it comes to, police work. They don't expect mediocre when it comes to paramedics. They want the best of the best out on the street, and that's what we're offering here is higher level training for their officers and their canine teams, whether it's in our Portland airport, our Seattle airport, whether it's the Moda Center in Portland, or whether it's the Seattle Seahawks Stadium. Those stadiums are being swept by dogs that are certified through our association. The
dogs are certainly capable of taking on more of a challenge, more of a role, so it's up to the handlers to rise to that challenge.
Because of how hard those tests are, not everyone will rise to that challenge, but many did. Reporting in the Tri-Cities, Aiden Whitaker, Action News.
Keepers in Whitaker, thank you. And leaders say the training wouldn't have been possible without support from countless community businesses and organizations who offered space and sponsored this year's event. It'll return again next year on the west side of the state. And speaking of animals, across the Tri-Cities, there are dozens of animals waiting for adoption with foster homes and in shelters. We met up with Pronto Puppy Rescue and one of their dogs who they've had for over a year. Harley is almost a year and a half old and has a special condition that prevents her from being able to drink water. She also has to eat upright, but she's hopeful to find a family that can take care of her.
In her case, she's an adult now, and she's competing every 2 weeks with all these adorable puppies that we're bringing in. And so many people want a puppy, and she's actually the perfect age to be adopted. She's ready for her home. She's house trained. She's a really good girl.
And even if you can't adopt Harley but want to get involved, volunteers in foster homes are always needed. Tri-City Tea Time was full of kart enthusiasts for a kart show on Saturday, and they were also able to squeeze in some mini golf. Organizers say it's a growing event that they hope to host multiple times a year. They started it because they didn't like how big the other shows are, so they got to work and found a venue.
We were coming back from the Spokane event, and there was 100 tables, right? And we felt like we weren't given the opportunity to really do well. So on the way back, I already have display cases here at Tea Time. So I got with Reyes, and I said, what do you think about doing events here?
Knight says it's family friendly and they want to make sure it's affordable and accessible to everyone. Their next event is scheduled for August 9th. And finally, women from local organizations came together over the weekend in the Tri-Cities to help pilots navigate the skies a bit better. The Port of Benton and the Mid-Columbia 99 chapter of women worked on painting a compass to add to the Richland Airport. Painted blue and white, leaders say this will not only help pilots with navigation, but is a signature of representation of women in the aviation industry.
The whole chapter is really excited about doing it. Everybody's like, tomorrow we got so many people coming in to help, and we're just going to get it done, and it's going to be beautiful.
The 99 chapter of Women is an international organization that helps women in aviation obtain scholarships, education, and more. The project was finished by the end of the weekend thanks to the help of 15 volunteers. The ongoing boycott of windmill farms by United Farm Workers has been endorsed by the executive board of the Washington State Labor Council. The vote, which took place Friday morning, was unanimous. In a news release, the council says they repeatedly reached out to windmill farms to open a conversation, but the company refused each one. Workers will meet in Seattle later this week for the annual United Farm Workers Luncheon. And Delonte Foods is closing its fruit processing plant and 2 warehouses in Yakima. In a news release, the corporation says that while the sites currently produce and store fruit products, there will be no fruit packaging or production at the Yakima facility for the 2025 season. The company has informed the union representing the plant's employees and is currently in discussions with them along with other manufacturing-related parties to address the impact of the closure. In part of a statement, Delonte says this was an extremely difficult decision, but one the company needed to make to align with consumer demand. No other Delonte facilities will be affected. The Roza Irrigation District has ceased the flow of water for its customers. The canal, which runs through Terrace Heights, was shut off on Tuesday, May 20th. Leaders with the Irrigation District are justifying the decision by saying it's better to save water earlier in the season as the temperatures are cooler.
and we're hoping to make it 7 to 13 days in order to add 7 to 13 days either towards the end of our season or to have additional water to apply to crops during the hot temperatures.
Now, this is the second year in a row where the irrigation district stopped the water flow earlier than expected in the season to prepare for the summer months. Multiple events will be going on across the valley today in celebration of Memorial Day. In Yakima, a Memorial Day Mass is planned at 10 this morning at Calvary Cemetery. The Marine Corps League of Yakima and Kittitas County will have two public events today, one at West Hills Cemetery on Wide Hollow Road and the other at Sarge Hubbard Park at 1 p.m. And in Grandview, a Memorial Day ceremony is planned at the Grandview Cemetery for 11 a.m. In the Tri-Cities, Pasco city leaders are inviting the community to take part in a Memorial Day ceremony today. The event will feature several guest speakers, remarks from Mayor Pete Serrano and Mayor Pro Tem David Milne, as well as ceremonial contributions from the American Legion Post 34 Honor Guard and the Tri-Cities Composite Squadron of the Civil Air Patrol. The ceremony will take place at City View Cemetery starting at 11 a.m. Also starting at 11 a.m. in Richland and going until 2 this afternoon, the Sunset Garden Cemetery will host a 1-hour ceremony where over 1,000 American flags will be flown. Afterwards, there will be live music, face painting, and free food. Folks can also watch a skydiver land with a 1,500 square foot American flag. And in Kennewick, members of VFW Post 5785 will lead Memorial Day services today at 9 a.m. starting at Riverview Heights Cemetery before heading to the Desert Lawn Memorial Park at 11 a.m. for a second service. And with today being Memorial Day, many places in town and across the region will be closed to observe the holiday. Yakima and Ben Franklin Transit will have no services and will resume normal operations tomorrow. Other closures include all city and county offices. Emergency services will still be available, though the U.S. Postal Service will also be closed, with their regular schedule set to resume tomorrow. And finally, the 43rd annual Mustangs on the Columbia took center stage in Kennewick yesterday, giving folks the ability to see more than a century's worth of automobile history. KEPR's Alan Lester went down to the waterfront to check it out.
Hundreds of people flocked to Columbia Park Sunday morning and afternoon, basking in the sights and sounds of more than 200 cars, new and old, for this year's spring show of Mustangs on the Columbia. The event attracting some who weren't even planning on attending.
We were honestly just going to go hammocking, and we saw a sign, car show, and so we wanted to just check it out. Kind of just random over here.
These old school cars over here, that's what actually got us to park and come in.
Yeah.
We were just going to drive by, but the old school cars, we definitely wanted to come in and check them out.
From the old school Model A's of the Roaring 20s to the new age electric Mustangs, organizers say the event has grown into a way for car enthusiasts to showcase their passions and teach others.
It's just a love for the vehicles and to keep those going and to educate the younger generations, whether it's about the cars, how to work on the cars, how to restore the cars, or just how to maintain cars.
Some participants even using the event to showcase some unique modifications to their car as event goers cruised on by.
I have a button in here that when I press it, a horse will neigh. And one car show, a little kid was walking by and he was crying. And I happened to be inside the cab, and I went over and I pushed the button. And he stopped crying, and he looked around trying to find this horse, and that felt great.
Reporting from Columbia Park, I'm Alan Lester, KEPR Action News.
KEPR's Alan Lester, thank you. And proceeds from the car show, such as raffles, vendor fees, and a silent auction, were given to local organizations which support veterans here in the Columbia Basin and nationwide. Mustangs on the Columbia will hold their second event of the year this autumn. Now, Jefferson, I got to say, what a way to end that package with that little horse neigh thing.
Yeah.
You were telling me that Alan was saying that it was a horn that was changed up?
A horn or a button or something in the car that apparently was quite distinguished among the crowd. You could hear it for a long ways, and he really enjoyed doing that package. He also enjoyed the sunshine that we saw yesterday. And we are going to see more of it as we go through this week. Let's just jump into the weather right now. We are going to be looking at passing clouds and sunshine today. A few showers this morning will give way to a partly cloudy afternoon. High temperatures today are going to be much cooler than yesterday. We just referenced the sunny and hot afternoon that we did see on Sunday with highs into the 80s and 90s. Today, only looking at mid to upper 70s. Now, as we do go later into the week, we will see the 80s and 90s returning.